Hey there, everyone. So I am Jacob, or Lavosbit, and I was going to do a review over Spline. So I have it currently downloaded on Windows, but I also have it on my Mac, and just kind of wanted to overview in comparison to Vectare, Sketchfab, and they're not exactly equivalent platforms. I feel like this is a little bit more equivalent to what Spline's offering. But as far as what I'm going to do is just kind of get something inside of Spline from SVG to 3D model and then import it in and kind of see how the navigation feels and whatnot. So let's get started. So normally I would look for an icon through like Font Awesome. Get that loading. And then basically like I do some UI designs for work as well as 3D modeling, primarily UI UX, but I went to school for 3D modeling game design. So let's look at an icon for like video. Cool, that looks good enough. Let's take that guy. Download the SVG. Go into Figma. Downloads. Cool. So what I notice, like let's say I wanted to make a 3D model of this. So currently I'm kind of finding a gap inside of Spline where basically if I were to take this SVG, it will accept the SVG, but there's certain properties of it that it won't include. So like you can't extrude currently in Spline. Sorry about that. Cool. So I do like this little onboarding sequence. It kind of shows you like what shortcut keys help you with navigation. So if it's with PC, it looks like it's spacebar and then left mouse click and drag, or option for Mac. And then I think next just brings you down. That you can create 3D objects using the right panel. Looks like that's all the properties for that. And then the left panel is your hierarchy of your layers. So that's what that shows right here. You can do child-parent relationships. And whichever assets are nested underneath the parent, looks like it'll associate that child-parent relationship based off of that. And then right here, it looks like there's like hexadecimal colors that you can pick or add if you have like certain brand colors or something specific that you're wanting to include in those materials. So that's super helpful. As far as like Substance Painter and Maya, it's a little bit difficult because it seems like they kind of go on HSL or HSV type color palettes. So this is definitely super helpful for getting specific on brand stuff. So I'll get this untitled one that I just created. So when you get started, you already have like a rectangle in here, and you can start modifying it. So I can like hold Alt and rotate around. I think it's spacebar to kind of like grab. I think it's Control and mouse wheel to zoom in. And then changing your viewport from orthographic to perspective on the bottom. It looks like you can go to like your orthographic shots from like, or cameras, top left, back, ISO, which is super nice. So in some of the tutorials already from Spline, they kind of discuss, like they can kind of quickly do your corner radius right here and smoothing it, extrusion. So it's kind of like you can really quickly create some stuff in here, which is really nice. Change the lighting to Lambert so you can kind of see the shading on it and whatnot. But let's just bring that SVG in. I think it was file import. I'll go to my downloads. Boop. Did it the wrong way, but glad I didn't break anything. So first off, I did notice this. Whenever you bring in a model or a vector, it looks like it doesn't reset the up and down properly. So there's kind of like a pivot. So I think what I did was kind of remove these from that layer. Delete that guy. Kind of forgot how I did this. Let's go back to that. So it looks like there's a pivot in this parent that is affecting the two varying shapes. So as far as like resetting the pivot, I don't think you can do that yet. Not sure. So it looks like the pivot's on the top left. So like let's just open up Maya and kind of go through what I would normally do to reset a pivot. I don't know if there's really necessarily a way to reset pivot to center or how to quickly, change your pivot point to different parts. But if I were to select these separate pieces, I don't think you can actually extrude. So like let's say I bring in a rectangle. You'll be able to see the shape, the corner, the roundness, extrusion, bevel. So I can extrude really quickly here. But if I select one of these components that are vector, as you can see under shape, certain properties aren't provided to you with SVGs under shape. So you can't, out of the box, kind of bring in your own assets. So the workaround for that is to go into Maya or any Blender, any 3D modeling software. Let's see, where did I put that shelf? Custom. There we go, SVG. So go into here, import was under downloads. Cool. So open, and there you get your 3D model. And as you can see in here, out of the box, the pivot point isn't in the center where I would like it. So I have like these handy tools here for freeze transformation, center pivot, and that'll quickly get that pivot point where I'm wanting it. But since I can't make any of these bevels or anything inside of Spline out of the box, there are tools inside of Maya for you to be able to do that, but I'm going to just go ahead and export this out and then bring it back into Spline. So I'm going to change the pivot point to down over here. Get that centered. Center pivot, freeze transformation, delete history. Save as, oops, this is as a Maya file. Export. FBX. All right, now that we have that exported, I can import. So imported that back in. Not sure how to zoom in camera. Like if you go to Maya, there's normally like I think even in Figma, you can kind of center your frame. I think it's like Control-0 to kind of fit whatever your selection is into frame. Control-1. In Maya, you just press F to like kind of box in and get the focus toward whatever you have selected. But as far as in Spline, I'm still kind of getting used to the navigation because there's a little bit different in comparison to what I've used before. So spacebar is kind of like the grab tool. If you're used to, using the grab tool in Figma or in Photoshop or Illustrator, that's pretty standard for designers, for designing tools rather. What was that rotation tool? Okay. So it looks like the camera is rotating around maybe the origin. Let's get this rotation fixed. What does that do? Cool. Default camera. Grab tool. Cool. Now that I have this in, I'm going to start selecting it and see if I can do some subdivision. That's not the same thing as what I was looking for as bevel. So it looks like what I would have to do is actually go back into here and go back to the modifier that has all the geometry tools that I'm looking for. So curve, resolution. You can start bumping up that subdivision, how many loops you have going around it. Extrusion distance and bevel. So that's what we're looking for, inner, outer, bevel on both sides. So that's looking about what I was hoping for. And now I can export that back out. Desktop. Actually, I just want to make sure that I delete all that stuff. And basically what I'm doing when I'm deleting all that information, the history, it just helps get the file size down, deletes any necessary history changes. So like if you're in Photoshop or Illustrator, all those actions of you like manipulating an image or anything, there's that history list. It kind of clears all that history out of anything that you modified. So like let's say I extruded this. There's actually like a history of changes that you've done to it. And when you delete it, it kind of makes it a smaller file. So I'll delete that guy. Import video. This should be the right one. There we go. Make it perspective. Cool. So I get the sizes, can change the materials to something physically based. It's like PBR versus Lambert or Fong. These are like kind of earlier. I really do like the fact that it does have toon shading. I think that's really cool. I haven't seen too many web-based 3D tools that offer that shader. So that's really exciting. I'm going to just pick something that's a little bit nicer. Subdivision, wireframe, flat. Let's see. Fresnel. So there was a video that I saw from Spline that kind of offered like showing you, adding this Fresnel layer. So it's kind of a material layer that you can kind of stack on top of each other and just like add more and more or delete and then change your opacity or how it's going to be blended. So like do like an overlay so it looks nice for now. And let's say I want to do some type of interactive points. So like now I have two different states. I can go back to the initial state and do on mouse hover, let's say. And whenever I do a mouse hover, what is that going to do? So it selects state 1. Actually, it's right there. State 1. And what does state 1 do? Let's just say it scales. That's just kidding. Nope. Sure. Is it Alt? Okay. So Alt Shift, much like Illustrator, InDesign, most, like Adobe products, it'll respect that that scaling, so it doesn't have any stretching for length and width. And if I go back to the base state, it should be that original scale. Actually, I'm going to fix that rotation. And fix that position. Bring it back to the origin. It's just nice to have everything in its right place in 3D. And state 2, I'll fix that position to 0 so that it feels like it's scaling from the center of it. It looks like it's 1.1, so I'm just going to make that a nice solid integer rotation. I'm going to fix that. Good, nice. So if you press play, you can kind of test it, like kind of much like in Figma, where you can prototype your animations, and you get that animation. So that's really nice. Let's say I'll bring in another 3D model in. Something. So I'll pick an arrow. Add a 3D model of an arrow. My apologies, my internet seems to be like kind of chugging. So download the SVG. Bring that into Figma. And there's something about Figma, like actually like the SVG size of it kind of cleans it up, which is really nice. But since I already have the SVG, I don't necessarily have to use Figma, since Maya actually just accepts it. So I'll just go to here, import in that up arrow. From there, center pivot. Move that guy to the center. Center origin. So hopefully when I bring that into Spline, it's going to instantiate or display the 3D model at the origin of that scene as well. Now, as far as scaling, I'm not sure if it's gonna, if it's 1-to-1. Like if I look at, where's that? Windows, preferences, settings. Now, I'm not sure if Spline, like what their measurements are inside of there, if that's any concern to think about as far as scalability and, bringing models in from, say Sketchfab. If you like need to know that, if you're just using web experiences, it might not matter. But I'm used to doing stuff for AR. So I'll just go back to SVG, go to geometry, bump up that resolution a little bit. And enable bevel. And I'll just keep the off-the-shelf curves on there. So one thing I do really like about Spline is the fact that you don't necessarily have to unwrap anything. And unwrapping is basically translating your 3D model to a two-dimensional space, so that you're able to texture your model without worrying about any type of stretching or deformation with your materials. So say I wanted to do like some type of fabric, you know, like if I don't have this unwrapped properly, there might be like some like really weird seeming scenario. But since I'm just going to do a flat color, I'm not too much worried about that right now. So center pivot, freeze transformation, history. Go back in the spline. Okay, it looks like, let's look at the state. Okay, it's state 2. So looks like it kept the scale. There is some weirdness going on with this icon. And it might honestly just be, there's some vertices that are being weird. Because, I mean, the topology here is kind of horrible. So what I should be doing is making tries or making sure that they're quads, and going to vertex, selecting everything, then merging vertices so that there isn't any type of like gross geometry. And this honestly bothers me, this layout, but I'm not gonna worry about it right now. History. Select the guy first, center. Export. Gonna update that. Go back to spline. Delete that arrow. Import back in. Okay, that's weird. So it looks like it fixed it, but it put it in a really weird position. Oops. Rotation. Not sure why it did that. That's weird. I really wish I could press F to zoom into what I'm selecting. I think that would be really nice. I'm going to hide that for now. And maybe add. So it looks like if you select the parent container, let's go back to here, SVG. So it looks like there isn't a parent container in here, it's just the model. But as you can see here, there is a parent object that I guess whenever you import a mesh into Spline, it creates the name of it and then the mesh properties below it. And that's whatever you have selected on the left panel, it's going to show you properties on the right. So if I click into the mesh, that's where you can see the difference. And I don't want to start from the beginning, so I'm just going to go to this mesh and then copy that. So I'm going to have to, I'll just hide it so I don't accidentally select it. Copy the material, and this feature is really nice. I do like the fact that you can associate material properties to something else. Paste material, and then pick a different color. So what I'm going to do with here is create two different states. And I want the first state to be basically hidden. Oops. Nope, 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 nope. So I want it to be hidden and contained inside that video camera icon. And that's affecting the parent, looks like. So state 2, 1:1 scale. And then I'm going to move that up. And now that I have those two different states, what do I want to do? I want whenever I hover over the camera, I want it to animate that arrow. So it looks like you can select and add states from itself, but you can also add a new object. Whenever there's a mouse hover, it's going to go from base state to state 1, and then with the up arrow icon. So this is the name of this parent. And that's the one that's actually getting the two different states. Not here. Looks like I don't have it here. Right there. So I want it to be state 1, and if I go to play, it should affect it that way. That's pretty cool. So I'm gonna actually dig more into this product some point this week, but just kind of wanted to showcase from a 3D modeler standpoint and with UI background that there is a way of just taking icons, quickly making 3D models, and then bringing that into Spline, and then being able to export for public consumption. So you can embed that into a website, like let's say Webflow. You can embed that into your Webflow site, or share that to a website. Add that as a property to your website. Yep. That's interesting. It's not working. Maybe I should save it first. Save file. So I did like this, that this part of the panel gives you options for how you want to export it, web content, image, video, the level of detail of the model, I'm guessing. Are you wanting the user to be able to rotate? Do you want them to be able to pan? Pan would be this grab tool, and then zooming in would be zooming in and out. So I'll just put no for that. No for pan, just rotate, and then I'll do another test export. It looks like it's the same URL. Okay. There we go. Up. So not quite sure why it's not working for me. That might be something on my end, not necessarily the platform itself. But all in all, I am super excited for this platform. I did purchase it because I do want to implement this into my own website. And this is just a template that I got from Webflow. But since I do stuff in augmented reality and do 3D stuff, I thought it would be nice to add some little 3D accents to the site using these colors so that it has like little accents. Oh, chugging. Yeah, it looks like there's ways to, let's say it is a black background on my website and I don't want to have that background. It looks like you can remove the background. There you go, background. That might actually be, I'm going to copy that. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so that is the background of this canvas. Global settings, environment, light color, ambient occlusion shadows. I've definitely taken the background color off, but I don't remember where it is. There, dark, wireframe, orbit, pixel snapping. Yeah, I don't remember where it is, but I've definitely, on some other test, removed the background color. So there are ways of, like maybe having this 3D model as an overlay on your website versus it being in a background. Yeah. So that's what I'm going to start using Spline for, is adding little components to my website. All right, guys. Cheers. Hope this was helpful and informative for you.